Back here, nice.
Are you a progressive young leader, a proactive emerging executive, a rising professional? Then you need appropriate cover for your vehicle. Introducing the Pro Motor Plan from Beacon. Car insurance that includes free loss of use, windscreen cover up to $3,500, free special perils, free accident forgiveness. Get Beacon's Pro Motor Plan today. Don't procrastinate. Call Beacon today at 440-4447 or visit beacongrenada.com.
Good morning, clubbers, and of course, welcome to another edition of the Wake Up Club. It's a terrific Tuesday, and of course, I start every day with gratitude. I am grateful for many things this morning. I'm grateful that we were able to sort out the little technological glitch we had this morning, and that's why we're a little late as a result of that. But we've been able to sort that out, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for you. I know you have options, and we're happy that you continue to join us every Tuesday and Friday for the Wake Up Club on the Ride Along Network. This morning, I'm also grateful for good health. You know, as I age, I start to feel aches and pains in places that I really never thought I would. So I am very grateful that at my age, I still have very good health. So there's so much to be grateful for. And I always ask you the question, what are you grateful for this morning? Listen, we have a fantastic show for you this morning. I'll be chatting with the dynamic Daisy Hazard. She is the newly elected president of the Grenada Public Workers Union. We're going to be diving into her Black Girl magic and her plans for the union and the future of the union. So we've got a very exciting show in store. We take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Looking for the ultimate island experience? Hop on the Ride Tuk Tuk Rum Punch Tour and explore Grenada like never before. Feel the tropical breeze, sip on authentic Caribbean rum punch, and cruise through Grenada's stunning scenery in our unique and fun tuk-tuks. It's the perfect blend of adventure and island flavor. Book your unforgettable tour now at ride.gd or call 473-422-1011. Don't just see Grenada, experience it with Ride Tuk Tuk Rum Punch Tours today.
Welcome back. And of course, this segment is called What Irks Kirk. But before I begin with what irks me, I want to, of course, send a message to Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell. I want to wish him a speedy recovery. He's a dynamic man who has done so much for this country. And, you know, I want to recognize that we acknowledge him. I don't know exactly what it is he's going through, but whatever it is, I wish him a speedy recovery. What irks me this morning, I don't know if it irks me or it concerns me or I'm paying attention to it. And listen, I like being wrong. You know why I like being wrong? Because it tells me that I still have a teachable heart. And there's so many things that I am still willing and embracing and hoping to learn. And lately, and I've shared this with some of my friends, that I feel lately that I'm encountering people all around me who just lack objectivity. You know, when I was thumping my chest and saying, you know, Kirk, you're right. You know, people are no longer objective. But you want to know something? I am so damn wrong about that. You know, the truth is that, you know, we are a new wave. It's a new life. And we're encouraging people to live in their truth. And to be quite honest, it's not that people are showing a lack of objectivity, you know. People are being truthful about who they are. You know, it's not that they're objective. I think in the past, we were concerned more about our appearance and we wanted to seem balanced, even though we weren't balanced, and we said the right thing. So we tried to be objective when really and truly it was a show. I think the real truth is that, and sad truth is that a lot of us are finally living in our truth, and that truth reveals us to be an ugly people, a real ugly people, because people are living in their truth. They're no longer disguising their true feelings. They're saying exactly how they feel, and you've got to let them live in their truth, because that's the new fashion, living in your truth. And that truth happens to be really ugly. And I know what I'm saying is right. I went to school in the United States, and I remember going to a friend's house, and I was there with a South African white guy. He was my roommate, and this girl invited us over with her entire family. And while he was speaking, the girl's grandfather, who is white, told him, "Boy, I don't know how you live with all these niggers around you." And of course, I was alarmed by it, because you had one of us me sitting at the table. But people are, I think, for the first time in a long time, being truthful. So the racism thing ain't just it reignite in the United States. It's always been there, but it was fashionable for us to be objective before. But now we're living in our truth, and it's a sad, sad world we're living in. Anyhow, we take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to dive into, of course, the dynamic conversation with Daisy Hazard. She is the newly elected president of the Grenada Public Workers Union. I want to know about that Black Girl Magic and so much more. We'll be right back.
Are you a progressive young leader, a proactive emerging executive, a rising professional? Then you need appropriate cover for your vehicle. Introducing the Pro Motor Plan from Beacon. Car insurance that includes free loss of use, windscreen cover up to $3,500, free special perils, free accident forgiveness. Get Beacon's Pro Motor Plan today. Don't procrastinate. Call Beacon today at 440-4447 or visit beacongrenada.com.
Welcome back. And of course, we're going to be joined now by the dynamic Daisy Hazard. Daisy, welcome to the Wake Up Club.
Hi, Kurt. Good morning. And it's a pleasure to be on the Wake Up Club, finally, at last.
Definitely. I'm so happy to have you here. Yes. Now, I know you. We worked together in the Ministry of Education many years ago. But I'm going to ask you the most difficult question of all the questions I'm going to ask you today. Who is Daisy Hazard? And I say it's difficult because most people don't know who they are. Okay? So that's the toughest question I'm asking you. Who is Daisy Hazard? Where is Daisy Hazard from? Who is where's the Black Girl Magic? Tell me.
Thank you, Kirk. And good morning again. And that you just mentioned the fact that we worked at Ministry of Education together. And mm-hmm. I want to just bring you back a couple of years ago when we were there together. I remember one time we had a professional difference. And yes. We were not happy with each other. But what the reason why we are friends today, why we are so cordial and civil and good with each other, is because even when we had that professional difference, we kept it professional. We never came to blows. We never came to words. Our friendship, in the sense of just chatting and having a good time, we let that go. But when we saw each other and we had to interact on a professional space, it was Mr. Sitaha, Miss Hazard. Our emails were professional. Our interactions became a little bit more crisp and professional. But there was never a moment in time when Kirk or Daisy decided that because we had a difference in opinion, that we would become uncivil with each other, or that we would throw words or even attempt to throw blows. I say that because sometimes now it almost seems as if there isn't a tolerance for civility, even in spaces where civility must prevail. I had to stick that little note in there.
I don't mind. Offline, you remind me what it was about, because
yes,
I guess
you don't remember.
I was going through life, so I can't even remember that.
Absolutely, yes. But who is Daisy? Last night I was saying to somebody, no, I'm not from Windsor Forest, and I'm not from St. George's, where I live currently. I'm a girl from the hills of Champlain.
Okay.
I'm from the community of Vincent's. I went to school in St. Theresa's RC, who grounded me, my groundation in the arts and in culture and in music and performing. That didn't come about with Family Theatre Company, where I spent over 20, 30 years in my life on stage in Grenada, doing plays across Grenada, the Caribbean, the world. But that came from my nurturing and my groundation in St. Theresa's RC. That came from growing up in the hills of Champlain, where my mother placed our little house in the middle of about 20 acres of land, where she said to us, I made enough children to make up a football team, um, a cricket squad, whatever you wanted to do it at home with your siblings. So I've lived the life of a loner, where the river was my best friend and the hills and the mountains surrounding me became my inspiration, where I climbed trees to read my books to get away from my brother. So today, in my walk in life as a leader, I've been prepared for that and I've been nurtured for that from my earliest groundations in the hills of Chamfleur, Vincennes, and St. David.
Okay. Now, listen, I want to extend congratulations to you on being elected the new president of the Grenada Public Workers Union. But I've got to ask my question. What motivated you to even run?
Kirk, I've always been somebody who looks at a situation and say, this is not fair. This is not right. We can do better here. I remember when I was in Teachers College, 1994, 96. Then it was IFE, GTVI, and that sort of a thing. And the then administration, it was the NNP administration at the time, decided to change it into a statutory body. And we students, we resisted because of course it was a new thing, statutorization of, let's say, the Postal Corporation, what is now TAMCC. And we were not happy with the documents that were proposed. And I remember leading students then, at that time, in protest, in action, to the point that leaders at the college had to come to me to say, Miss Jeanette Dubois, you might be listening, Daisy, we need you to behave so that others can behave. I'd be writing articles on the blackboard across the college, asking students to question this document. Resultantly, the then Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Mitchell, had to come to the college to have a conversation with us, the student body. And what we see today as the TAMCC statutory document, GPC, all of that kind of a work came about and became better because of the agitation and advocacy of our students at the time. So what has led me into active trade unionism? The pension and gratuity disqualification of 1983, 1985, and understanding that as a public servant, we were going to work and retire into poverty, and understanding that there were men and women who had served Grenada on their feet, with their hands, and had retired into poverty. And that really began to bother me. And I'm an avid reader. I consume everything. So I was reading actuarial studies, reports commissioned even by the government of Grenada, successive administrations, but nothing was being done. And that is when I began to be active behind the scenes, encouraging leaders, Brother Adrian Francis, Sister Rachel Roberts, going to meetings every AGM every year and saying, I am only here to speak about the issue of pension and gratuity, and offering solutions, suggestions, and ideas. And then eventually I said, I'm not happy that enough is being done. I'm going to join the ranks. So I ran for executive office for the first time in 2019, became successful as PRO. 2022, I was part of that executive that marched the streets of Grenada in COVID, in the middle of COVID, with police officers surrounding us while we were agitating and bringing awareness to the public about the issues of pension and gratuity. The other thing that got me riled up was the fact that we had so many young people, young women, young girls, men in our public sector with no proper instruments of appointment, unestablished, discriminated against, vulnerable, treated badly in many instances. And I felt that I, as a public officer who did not have to worry too much about being dismissed unjustly, unfairly, being established, that I could take on that fight for less vulnerable workers. So it was those two issues, two ideas, and two matters that had nothing to do with me, that would not bring back any direct benefit to me whatsoever. Well, of course, the pension and gratuity, but by then I had already purchased pension insurance.
Okay.
Because I thought, if this thing is not going to get solved, I want to be covered. But it was those two things. And I'm happy to see today that the pension and gratuity matter, unions were able to get that restored within the courthouse. And then we had an administration that came into office on that pension premise, promised to pay and did pay. And we also see that there has been strides, not enough, not in the ways that we would really want to see it, but there has been effort by this present administration to do more about unestablished workers. That is what has led me to leadership in the PWU.
Okay. Now we did mention some of the challenges, and I would say pension and gratuity, young people coming into to a workforce and giving their entire life state and walking out of it with nothing. But I've got to ask you, what do you perceive as the biggest challenge facing the public union today, and what are your plans to address these challenges?
The biggest challenge facing the public unions, the PWU today, is three. One, there is a sense of me, an individual kind of I only care and I'm only concerned about myself. So I don't care about an organization, an institution. I don't care about other people. I want the things that I want. I am not prepared to really stand up to fight for it too much. But I believe that someone else or my institution must fight. And I ask workers, who's the union? Is it just Daisy? Would it just be the 10 people on your executive? You want 6% increase in 2024. I'm six. If the union asks you to stand up and to hold out with us, would you come outside? No, no, I'm not into that, but I want what I want. So there is a sense of self gratification, of instant gratification. There is a little proverb that says, if you want to go quickly, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And I believe that in the past, our society, our groundation as civilians, as workers, was more about let us do it together. I was telling one worker only yesterday, do you know that the building that we inhabit on the Port Highway, that then men and women in the early 1980s mortgaged their homes so that we could get that loan, so that building could be built. So we see it there today and we say, why don't you rent it out? Why don't the union sell it? Why don't we move out of it rather than having to pay a mortgage? But if you don't pay a mortgage, you're paying a rent, and you're paying a rent for something that's not yours eventually. But somebody made the sacrifice of their own home. They had to go home and say to their wife and their children, I'm mortgaging this house. And knowing a lot of men, they probably mortgaged the house and the wife didn't know. So so that's the kind of a sacrifice that we do not see a lot of willingness today. And that is the kind of education that I would have to, as president, lead and organize and energize among my membership so they understand why we must go together so that we can go far and not necessarily go alone, going quickly. The third premise is that workers, too many workers, are vulnerable. Are vulnerable because you have an instrument that says you can be dismissed without notice. You can be dismissed for no cause. You can be dismissed and be given 1 month's pay. And imagine you've been working a job all your life, 17 years, 18 years, 20 years, and somebody can get up one day and just fire you. That kind of a hurt where you've fashioned your life in a space and in a context with people. And so many workers have come into the workplace timid. Kirk, they've not come in like you and me. They've not coming, and when you come in, you're 17, 18, 19, 20, 30, and you're just energized and you're empowered and you're educated and you know your responsibilities and your rights. I've asked workers, have you ever read your SRNO? That's the rules and regulations that govern you as a public officer. No. Have you ever read your constitution? No. Do you know the labor code? Are you familiar? No. So why don't you know? Because you've come into work in a way and in a fashion that says you don't really have rights. And that has really affected the PWU over time, over many decades. And it is up to my leadership now, having understood that from having served for the last 6 years, to educate and empower our young ladies and to say you're bright, you're beautiful, you're talented, you have something to offer Grenada. Continue educating yourself so that if you came in as a clerk typist 10 years later, you probably should be somewhere higher up. And you shouldn't have to look at somebody else and say, but we came in together, or she came in after me, but here she is today holding big position, but she's made the sacrifice. He's done the work. He's upskilled himself to ensure that he can take up higher position. So, and the other thing is that established workers are saying, I'm tired. I've done my part. Remember when we marched? Remember when we got that big payout in 1989-90? Remember when? Well, I'm tired. It's up to them now. So I have to find a way to get all of my diverse members and in statutory organizations as well to go together so we can go far.
Well, it leads me to my next question. It ties in. You talk about education and empowering. how do you plan to engage and involve union members in the decision making process? Because you spoke about education and empowerment. So it leads me to have to ask you that what are your plans to engage workers outside of education?
Right. So my plan, Kirk, you know me,
Mhm.
is going to be strategic. It's going to be targeted, measurable goals, measurable outcomes that I can tick off and say, yes. One of the things that we must do as union is not talk to workers from the union hall, but speak to workers in their workplaces to find them where they are, to
Mhm.
find them on the farms, to find them on the playing fields where they're probably instructing students in netball and coaching, to find them where they're teaching music. I say that public servants are flung in every corner of this diverse Grenada. Every corner, everywhere. We have cooks in schools. So we cannot expect people to be coming to us. We have to find them where they are. We have to do a lot of outreach, and we have to do a lot of building up. So that would be one of the pillars of my presidency. In fact, when I went out there to canvass workers, this is what they were saying to me. This is what they were saying, Sister Daisy, you're not doing enough of that. We hear you, we know you're there, we know union is there, but we want to feel a lot more connection. In terms of decision making, members always participate in decision making. We have our AGMs, we have our various arms, we have our shop stewards. So information is filtered into the union hall in that mechanism. But again, we want to ensure that we're engaging with our workers out there where they are and hearing from them in real time. That is what I promise to do as
Yeah,
president.
because I think it's important for all voices to be heard.
Yeah.
And how do you plan to ensure and make sure that everybody's voice is heard? Because I'm looking at some of the comments, and a lot of people are talking about the division that's happening now. And I don't want to talk about the division. I want to talk about building and making it right, because we could spend a lot of time beating up the melee and the drama. This is a new regime, it's a new birth. How are we going to ensure that all voices are heard?
I want to talk about the division curve because
Go
I
ahead.
want to dispel it. Let me tell you what happens. When the PWU has an election, unlike the setup of many other unions, our union is very unique and totally democratic. Any person, any
Mhm.
worker, and I just mentioned some categories, can decide, I want to run for executive office. There is nothing that debars any worker. The only criteria is that you must be a member in good standing, so that there must not be any disciplinary, let's say, charges so against you, and that would be from the public service or commission or your supervisors. But any worker can decide, I want to be president. And on nomination day, when nominations are returned and in this, the election supervisor discloses the list, that is when you know who has put themselves forward for service, be it for president, assistant secretary, secretary. And at that time, that is when you may know who might have encouraged somebody, because we encourage each other. Elections are coming up, run for something. Someone who might have contested a position in the past might decide, I want to try it again. But people always tend to try to find people to go with them. So what you would have happening is that while the elections are being contested, it is a bit of a competition. And
Mhm.
I'll say something to the public now again. I
Mhm.
kept, as I've always done, my competition clean. My canvassing of members was based on my achievements and my record at the Union Hall, who I am as a human being, who I've actualized academically and otherwise to have positioned me to be able to lead this institution, which is a great organization. Unfortunately, not everyone does that. And at the end of the day, competition. If you have a race, there was a sports meet at the stadium on Saturday, and somebody is going to come in first, and someone is going to pull up at the end. Someone is going to feel victorious, and someone is going to feel, oh my gosh, I didn't run the best race. And so there is always a little bit of a period where there has to be a settling back. But we all run for the same objective, for the PWU. There is only one team, and that's the PWU. So division, no, there is no division. There is one PWU, and we all have the same objective.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. I've got to ask you, what current negotiations are ongoing, and what will you advocate for?
You just broke my back.
Oh no, why is that?
Let me tell you why.
Mhm.
All of our negotiations would have started in 23 to 25. So all of the bodies that we represent, save two, we have to start, well, or we have to start new negotiations for them in 25. Every single statutory organization and
Mhm.
mainstream public sector. We have NAWASA, who is outstanding from 2023. So NAWASA workers, don't come at my throat. You have not received salary increases at all from 2023 to 25. So that's the priority on the agenda. TAMCC workers are owed a 5% and they want their money. TAMCC workers do not make joke, they do not hold back when they want their money. So that's the two things that we have to look at. But we also have to start negotiations for 26 to 20, 26, 27, 28, 26 to 28 this year for all of our institutions. And we also have to do CBAs for them. What do workers want? Workers want money. They want money because they have told you 25 have hit hard. 25 has been the hardest year financially, and we are only in March in a lot of years. What do workers want? Workers want benefits. Benefits that the employer cannot take back in a percentage here, income tax there, NIS there, and even the union taking back a 1% because we've restructured our dues. So members want tangible benefits, measurable benefits. They were saying to me, listen, there's Crown lands. Ask government for some for workers. I don't know what the public will say about that, but our members have asked, among other
Mhm.
things.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay, definitely. I have to ask you, how do you plan to work with other organizations and stakeholders to advance the interests of the public workers? Because we've got to work together.
Right. And so let me start with the public sector and
Mhm.
public sector mainstream statutory. It is my intention to have sit downs with every management body first. Even before I sit with workers, I want to sit with management. I want to establish relationships. I want to know who's the manager here. Do they know me? Have we met? When I pick the phone up, would you be speaking with someone that you've seen in the real rather than speaking with someone that you see on TV? When people meet me in person, they said, but you're the lady on TV? You're different. Because every role, every situation, your function changes, your register changes to suit your audience. So, certainly, if I'm interacting with someone one to one, they're not getting the TV persona, they're getting the Daisy that you know. Still very clear, still very determined, still very firm, but obviously giving respect to people within the authority as managers, as supervisors, as PSs. In terms of the broader Grenada, the union conducts its business within the public space. And where we have public buy-in and understanding, where you understand my cause, where you understand the workers' cause, or you have heard us articulate it, you can better speak to it and say, yes, our nurses deserve to have better salaries. Our nurses should have a proper break room so that we do not have to see them sitting on the benches outside with the public and then say they're always liming on the benches, but not understanding that the bench is a restroom. And so we also partner with organizations just for burial relief. I don't want to go into names here, but so many organizations, businesses that sell material goods, mattresses, food, they supported our union's relief efforts. Other unions supported our relief efforts. And so it is very, very important for the union to establish goodwill within the society.
How do
Yes.
you plan to promote diversity and inclusion within the union and among its membership? Because clearly there's something fractured right now. You keep speaking about one union, and I agree because
Right.
that has to be the stance. But how do you plan to heal or to promote that diversity and inclusion?
So it's promoting, not healing necessary. Diversity and inclusion, one. So my intention, and I have to sit with my executive because everybody would have their own ideas, is one to deal with people in their groupings, as I've said before. So you deal with and you interface with people in their groupings. Our statutory organizations, sometimes I feel we overlook them. When we
Okay.
call a big general meeting, they come and they sit and listen to us, yada, 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 about the public sector, and their concerns kind of take a back burner. So my intention is to be able to meet with our statutory organizations from time to time together as a unique bunch. But at the same time, we must create opportunities for diverse workers to come together, to interact with each other. And that happens over the water cooler. That happens
Okay.
socially. That happens over a cricket game. That happens over a bingo night at the union, where people can interface and interact with each other, intersector, to understand each other better. Inclusion of people who may be different. Inclusion of people who have different ideas and orientation. That's critical. 'Cause I went to school in Canada. I did postgraduate studies in Canada. That's a society that values inclusion, that includes people in a manner that you don't even know they're being included, because it's not as if we have to include them because they're different and it's our society. The society, the organization is for all of us. So I'm very liberal in that regard. Come as you are, whoever you have a right. It's not a right that we're going to give you or confer on you, but it's a right that you have that is inalienable as a human being. And so I will definitely take steps to ensure that we're bringing workers together who can talk to each other. When I speak to workers on the farms, I'm amazed at the nuggets of wisdom that they
Mm-hmm.
give to me. I might speak to a worker in St. George's who says to me, "You want me to pay $50 for a union jersey and I pay dues?" And a worker on the farm says to me, "Give me a whole package. I want a jersey, I want a cap, I want, you see that pin you're wearing? I want a pin. Give me a package, man. Make it nice. I'm going to pay for it." So you get that kind of a mixing of views when you can bring people together. And that's what I intend to do.
Okay, I've got to ask you, in your opinion, what is the future of the public service and how can the union adapt to changes in the workforce? Because technology is advancing, the world is changing, you know, you
You
know.
should have that question, that conversation with my bosses. The
Okay.
future of the public service. I think right now there is a document that the DPA, that's Department of Public Administration, is unveiling across departments, where they're asking workers to really craft their performance appraisals according to key performance indicators, measurable. It's always measurable, but there is some change. And as long as we hear public sector, we've been hearing public sector modernization, almost as if it's become a word that we're bored with. Public sector modernization has to do with how we embrace technologies, how we use it to fashion work. Many people complain, well, when you go to the ministry, nobody's there or nobody answers the phone. And I ask the question, why should nobody be answering the phone? Because we have technology that should ensure that once the phone is wrong, it's picked up, whether it's by a human being or whether it's by a mechanized or technological process. So why is it that we're not having that happen? And so it means that we have to speak to government about its systems, because I do not want the public badgering my workers. Because if you have one person sitting on a PBX fielding all the calls coming into a ministry, unless you have automated systems, calls are going to be dropped. And so how do we use technology to ensure that people can do remote and blended working? A person may have a child who is sick. There's a bad flu going around that's knocking down people. My son was sick in Canada 3 days. He could not get out of bed. So what if a worker has a child who is sick? Should that worker have to stay at home and not work and not be productive? Whereas they can be at home on the laptop, working remotely for that period. And so we saw that in the COVID period, there was an uptick in blended and remote working. There was an uptick in fashion and work, not having someone behind a desk necessarily, or saying 8 to 4, you must be here. But how do we provide services outside of the regular hours? How do we have a public sector that starts to work some people from 7 in the morning? So that someone who has to go to work at the bank but wants to do government business can do it at 7. Or someone who's coming from work at after 4 can do it at 5. How can we do that? So that's the kind of a public sector I believe that the executive under my leadership should be looking forward to crafting.
Okay, I've got to ask you, what message would you like to share with the members of the Public Workers Union as you begin this presidency?
My message is we are a strong institution. We are a powerful institution. We are an institution that plays a critical role, not just in our lives, but in the lives of the entire Grenadian society. I am satisfied that your vote, your choices this election showed that. You chose members from both teams. You chose representatives from various organizations. And so I believe that members have shown that that is the kind of public PW that they want to see, and that we understand that we cannot allow our union to fall into other hands, that we cannot allow our union to be directed, whether it's overtly or covertly, by other forces besides ourselves, and that we must go forward together on our feet, not on our knees, not begging, but advocating.
Okay, definitely. Now, Jackie, you're one of or viewers and listeners, she mentioned the KPIs that you spoke about before. And we know KPIs are important. I
Yeah.
remember back in my days in the Ministry of Education, a principal would come in and say, hey, this teacher not working, you need to get rid of the teacher. But when you looked at the performance appraisal that the same principal gave, it was outstanding, and because we live in a small society, there is that fear
Mm-hmm.
of, I want to talk about that because we're talking about the unions. What sort of drive or education initiatives are there? I know there is representation, but in terms of educating our workers and bringing them up to speed, that constant education, any initiatives in store?
Okay, so I'll tell you, Kirk. The performance of a member, of a worker, that has to do
Mhm,
with management. That's a management function. But
mhm.
I like to say, if my workers are productive and professional and doing what they have to do, it is easier for me to represent them. If you come
Okay.
to me with a matter and I have to go back to the employer to advocate for you, it is better for me if I'm advocating for a member, a worker that the employer cannot say does not work or is not professional or does not do what they have to do. And so it is critical from the union's end that we help to build a cadre of professional workers, of workers who understand their value, of workers who understand their role in the building of a productive and vitally economic Grenada. And definitely part of our education component will include that. We would be
Okay.
working with management and pushing at managers. We've heard a lot of feedback. I've heard a lot of feedback in the last several weeks about people not being satisfied with how management, in many cases, actualize their functions. Having workers who seem to feel or be able to just flaunt rules and regulations so casually, almost with impunity. And you wonder, where is the empowerment coming from? What has empowered them to believe that they can so behave within a public sector where even seasoned workers like me, even workers like myself, who is within a union executive, would not dare to do how I comport myself, how I treat with the public, how I dress to go to work. And so the value of who a public servant is, that is something that the union will want to instill in workers under my presidency.
Okay. Definitely. I see Jackie, Jacinta Spice, Fleming, I think it is. I think she's trying to gaslight me. She says that I'm afraid to ask about politics and how politics was involved in the campaign. But I want to go forward, and I'm going to ask you, I have to ask you this question before my final question. Recently you made the news. Apparently there was some sort of that altercation or
I'm not hearing you. I know you're speaking, but I'm not hearing you. Not hearing you. I'm not hearing you. I'm not hearing you. I'm not hearing anything.
Are you a progressive young leader, a proactive emerging executive, a rising professional? Then you need appropriate cover for your vehicle. Introducing the Pro Motor Plan from Beacon. Car insurance that includes free loss of use, windscreen cover up to $3,500, free special perils, free accident forgiveness. Get Beacon's Pro Motor Plan today. Don't procrastinate. Call Beacon today at 440-4447.
I am not hearing you. I'm still not hearing you. Still not hearing you. Still not hearing you. I'm still not hearing you. Not hearing you.
Looking for the ultimate island experience? Hop on the Ride Tuk Tuk Rum Punch Tour and explore Grenada like never before. Feel the tropical breeze, sip on authentic Caribbean rum punch, and cruise through Grenada's stunning scenery in our unique and fun tuk-tuks. It's the perfect blend of adventure and island flavor. Book your unforgettable tour now at ride.gd or call 473-422-1011. Don't just see Grenada, experience it with Ride Tuk Tuk Rum Punch Tours today.
You call me to lift the level, high the level, raise the level, up it, up it.
What if you had a choice? A choice of joining a line or a choice of making your purchases online? What would you choose? While you ponder on that, the National Lotteries Authority has provided another purchasing option. All their games are now available online. Yes, Grenadians! From wherever you are, purchase your favorite daily and jackpot type games using any electronic device. Register on the NLA's website at www.nla.gd. Top up your account and enjoy online lottery gaming at your convenience. We're taking shopping comfort up, up, up several notches. But the choice is yours. Join a line or buy online. NLA, make your dreams come true.
You call me to lift the level, high the level, raise the level, up it, up it.
This morning? Oh, go please.
Hey, folks, welcome back. Daisy, can you hear me now?
I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Okay, perfect. Before we kind of had that glitch, one of our viewers was saying that, it seems like I'm afraid to ask the political questions. And I'm not. I'm asking the questions that I want to know about, which is the future of the union. But, making social media waves recently was, we were speaking about unity. Making the waves recently was an altercation that happened with you at the Kaipo office with the gentleman who ran against you. Can you share anything on that, your perspective on that, a work to bridge that gap?
Well, let me just give a little backdrop. Again, regardless who comes forward to serve, which is revealed on nomination day, we all come forward to serve one PWU. As I said before, our processes are totally democratic. We do not have any mechanism that filters beforehand who a president or who the candidates for any position might be. Everybody can choose executive office. Typically, when elections are over, workers want you to come back to say thank you to them. In fact, I have called, Sister Daisy, we've not seen you yet. We're waiting for you. You need to come. We want to hear from you again. And so everybody would go back out to say thank you. And of course, you're going to go with your colleagues, your friends, your team. And on Friday last, we did some on Thursday. And of course, we're back and work full-time in government service. And on Thursday, we have one colleague at the Parliament. So we were doing Parliament, Audit Department, Kaipo, Nawasa Lucas Street, and the Accountant General's office. And that was our target for a very brief period in the morning. And we went to Kaipo. That was our third stop. And our message is, thank you for voting. Thank you for participating. We look forward to serve going forward. And I also said, congratulations, because you not just came forward as a member, but you came forward as someone who contested executive office. So I want to especially congratulate you for that. And I look forward to your help, your support going forward, your feedback, your recommendations, your suggestions. And there is so much work to be done in the union. So to my mind, where persons are not successful, you might be able to get them to help in a committee, to head a negotiations team. We did that with Brother Pear, who contested Brother Grimes for president 4 years ago. But when he was not successful, we were able to say to Grimes, let us bring on Pear. And he became an invaluable member of our team in heading the men's arm. And that was not very welcome. I was leaving Kaipo. I was heading out. Guys, let's go. And I heard a ruckus behind me and realized that I was the target of that ruckus. And but I wasn't sure what was happening because it was behind me. And I turned around and I said, well, what's the matter? And unfortunately, some words were exchanged. I was told some things, and I said, well, what has caused this? I left. I went out to my car with one of the sisters. I was very shaken. to be confronted like that. Um, my other team members remain behind remonstrating, and it's, I hope for healing for everybody. It is one union. There is no way our team get in, and we are going to come down there to manage them, and we're going down there to fix all that's broken down there. A union is something that you grow. And the reason why there's elections every 2 years is because the work of the union never stops. And I believe that in the moment, perhaps, as I've said to some members or shop stewards, competing is not easy. Putting your guts and your out there on the line to go to members to say, I want to represent you, is not an easy thing. And not having not being successful or winning is not always easy. I've won, and so it is easier for me. And so I just pray that everybody involved and all members who came forward to represent at the executive level and who were not successful feel that measure of healing for not having won. But that's an individual perspective. That would have to go back to the individual person, your actualization as a human being, your virtues and your values as a human being, having understood that you competed in a race where there is one cause, the union, and it's not us against them, or we're going down there to fix what's broken because they are broken and they've done nothing and all this sort of a. But my team, as I've said before, I ran on the strength of my accomplishments. I did a very clean campaign, a very simple campaign. I didn't focus so much on social media. I went out there to meet workers on the ground. And my message was about us, going forward together as us, but not us and them, or us against them or them against us. So that's all I would want to say on that matter.
Okay, well, definitely speaking about us, my final question: how can the union members best support you and the union's initiatives during your term?
Well, I'll tell you something. As much as I've met members out there who have said, you have to do it. I don't know how, but you have to do it. I'm not coming out. I don't like to come to meetings. I'm not attending. I don't want to participate in anything, but I want the union to do it all. I have met members who have said, call on me. I'm excited. I've met a lot of young members who feel newly energized. They're excited. They want to serve. They are willing to give feedback. They have agreed, I'm going to serve on a committee. You can call on me. And I've said to all members, call me. Call the office, call the secretariat, call any member of the executive. You have a concern, you have a complaint, you have feedback, suggestions, ideas, whatever it is. Let us build a union together, because I'm only your leader. I can only lead the team, but we're a team together, and together we can take PWU forward.
Listen, Daisy, I want to congratulate you again. I want to thank you for joining us on the Wake Up Club this morning, for sharing, your insight, a little bit about that Black girl magic that motivates you. I think sometimes people lose the fact that this is not every other program. Okay, there are programs for the bacchanal, and I keep saying that, but people seem to be expecting it, not understanding.
They
That's
want to
not
be
me.
mired. They
Yeah,
want to dwell in the slums.
yeah, but that's not what it is. This is
And there's a
this
society
program.
to elevate.
Yeah, this program is about getting to know Grenadians, featuring their work, hearing from them themselves. There's to the point, there's all sorts of different programs that deal with the drama and the melee and all of the stupidness like that. I want to wish you every success in your endeavors. Know you personally. I know you're going to put your everything in it. And I like the fact that you are preaching people and members first. Thank you again. I want to wish you a terrific Tuesday. Folks, thank you for joining us on the Wake Up Club. We appreciate you. I know you have choices. Listen, it's a 1 hour interview. I can't ask all the questions, and I'm going to ask the questions I want to ask. The other people have questions. As she said, you have a concern, reach out, pick up the phone and call. You'll get the answers there. I want to wish you guys a terrific Tuesday. Before I go, I wanted to share this information with you. Francis Purcell shared it with me yesterday, and I like the fact that this initiative is happening again in Grenada. And let me tell you about it and let you know where it's happening. We're talking about the Grenada Medical Mission, Eyes on Grenada 2025. It's a free eye clinic. It's happening. It's an optometry clinics. It's happening on April 14 and 15 at the Gulf Polyclinic, April 16 at the Youth Center St. George's, and on April 17 at the youth center. So they're going to have free eye exams, free eye care medication as needed, free reading and sunglasses as needed, cataract surgeries, but you must be pre-qualified by the Ministry of Health. Listen, it's happening April 14 to the 17 at the General Hospital. Listen, this is an opportunity. Okay, and I'm telling you. So if you have a little child and you find the child squinting when they're doing their homework or they're reading, or you have a problem, listen, it's a free clinic. Okay, let me remind you the dates again. April 14 to 15 at the Guelph Polyclinic. April 16, the Youth Center St. George's. April 17, the Youth Center as well. Okay, guys, if you want more information, they don't have a contact number, but I will get that information and share with you again before these clinics happen. Have a fantastic Tuesday, terrific Tuesday. Be the best version of yourself, and we'll see you on Friday. Thank you for viewing. Bye.